Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to TalkSports. It is our Saturday sports program. Certainly, it's where, what can I say? Um, Lots taking place. Yeah, quite a bit taking place, and certainly we'll have quite a bit to talk about. I'm certain that folks like Rodian and then our guest Cheney Joseph, who should be on, um, will talk about. But let me see if I can make contact with my co-host, Rudian. Good morning to you,
Good
Rudian.
morning. Good morning, and good morning to the listeners, wherever you are in this part of the world. I am looking at snow outside, and I know some people have sun or snow or rain. So it is a pleasure to be here with you on this Saturday.
Right. Yeah. And we should have our guest, Cheney, should be on with us momentarily. But certainly, um, it's this time of the year, Rudian, where we start to, you know, should I say, sort of wind down and recap, you know, some of the happenings.
Certainly, surely, but just starting with athletics is really good to see the awards taking place this week. And we see Sydney and Tobago both winning, the award of female and male athlete of the year. That was certainly good to see. It was truly a bias for me. I would have really liked to see Alfred. However, Sydney, it was a toss up between both of them. Breaking up 400-meter hurdles is not easy compared to any other race that you're running, but going over that hurdles and the times you run it in it's just amazing. So certainly it was a toss up for me, but I'm happy, and I'm happy for Alfred actually being in the mix. I mean, she's second. There's nothing for second in those things, right? So, but she did win NCAA Athlete of the Year, which is also really good for the year. So certainly it was, and I guess the Tobago one was also a toss up as well. I Yeah, it was surely a surprise.
Mhm.
You know, I thought the pole vote would have won it. I thought he would have won it because he break a world record, and I mean, what he doing this stuff, what he done is just remarkable, and breaking
Very
the
good.
Olympic record. But
And there was the argument that whether or not
yeah,
Alfred from St. Lucia, with Sydney, and then they're looking at Sydney with our record-breaking performances, and
and that's the thing. Yeah, so it was a toss up. It was a toss up.
yeah,
Yeah, it was quite a toss up. But both athletes well deserved. Of the performance they have done in this year, and I don't know if they don't just look at the Olympic Games or World Championship games. I think they look at the whole season. So I
yeah,
think that also have a big part to play with it. So certainly,
yes.
and as you see back in athletics, everybody is back in training now. It's the season. Everybody getting back together. Everybody getting back into training. So certainly, I guess a lot of people will be doing indoors, based on what I'm
Right.
hearing. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
so,
surely.
so while we wait on our guest, Mr. Cheney Joseph, to organize on his side, just to let you know that the the Grenada Cricket Association, they elected a new executive. Okay,
Yes.
last Saturday they had their biennial general meeting, a new executive. The new president is Mr. Norman Gilbert. The first vice president is ASP Randall Batiste. Second vice president is Raphael Crony. Sharice Noel is the secretary. Isaiah Peters is the treasurer, and the two assistant secretaries, Lydia Edgar, she's a former national woman cricketer, and Rondell John is the assistant secretary. So, new association for Grenada Cricket Association, and they will govern for the next 2 years. It's a 2-year term,
So they
and
come here.
yeah. So, Mr. Norman Gilbert, he is the president, the new president. And then there's also this weekend. So the there is the Windward Islands Cricket under 15 cricket tournament taking place in St. Lucia, and well, in that Sunday, Grenada plays St. Lucia, and then Monday we come up against Dominica. On Wednesday, they play St. Vincent and Grenadines, and then they also play St. Lucia on Thursday, then Dominica on Saturday, and next Sunday against St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Rakeem Charles is the captain of the Grenada team. It's Jamie Wickham, the vice captain. Tayshaun Joseph, Junior, Macmillan, Aaron St. Hilaire, Ethan Abraham, Devon Joseph, Jakim George, Jeremy Edwards, Tyler Davis, Lyndon Francis, Kewan Matthews, Kivante Bartholomew, and Kevin Abraham. And we had the results as Jadon Bristol, Xavier Thomas, Javon Francis, and Keeman Joseph. The coach is Clyde Telesford, and the manager is Vernon Thomas. So that's on the side of cricket. And then we have the
well, even talking about cricket, it is also nice to see Afi certainly being awarded, and that's certainly well deserved. And I do want to thank.
She was among others awarded. She was not the only one, right?
She's not the only one, but yeah.
But as I say, nice to see her
cricket,
being included, right? The Sports Shop Inter-Secondary Schools Netball. Okay, so Mr. Joseph is on, so we'll get to him shortly. Tournament. Well, so the semifinals took place on Thursday, and the final, I was to say finals because they will have the championship game as well as the third and fourth places in the tournament. They will take place on Tuesday. But in the junior division, we will see Anakin High School and Grenville Secondary School. That's in they both will contest the A and B finals in the netball. Why? Because they both secured victories in the semifinals.
Yeah.
Grenville Secondary School defeated Happy Hill Secondary School 14-10. That's in the junior division. And Anakin High School defeated St. Joseph Convent St. George 35-0. Wow. I hope it's not a mistake, but I'm reading what I'm seeing. 35-0. That's in the B division. In the A division, Grenville Secondary School defeated St. Joseph Convent St. George 32-29. And Anakin High School defeated Happy Hill Secondary School 34-13. So the B division, you will see Grenville Secondary School against Anakin High School. And in the A division, it will be Grenville Secondary School against Anakin High School. The third place will also feature Happy Hill Secondary School and St. Joseph Convent St. George, right? So we'll probably recap it later on. Let's just say good afternoon. It will be afternoon. Whoa. To Mr. Cheney Joseph. We can't really see him clearly, but we'll try to see how much we can get of him. I don't know if the reflection could be on his glasses, the lighting or something. But
it doesn't matter. It seems like I'm looking good. Is that a Manchester you're on? I don't know.
So good morning. Well, afternoon where you are. Cheney
you're on mute. You're on mute.
Yeah. If he's just I hope he knows how to unmute himself, but he'll be back. I think he's fine tuning in the background there. But nevertheless, so let's see if we can add Cheney now. Not the best quality, but still, I think if he unmute, right, we will hear him. Good afternoon, Mr. Joseph.
Hi, good afternoon to you, Michael. Good afternoon, Rudian. Season greetings to you guys. I wonder what this program is doing to my image.
I don't think it's a program. There's a saying that goes sometimes, a common phrase. What pig knows about toothpaste? You know, think about it. You know, what pig knows about toothpaste?
Hopefully it will get better.
All right. Okay. Well, nice having you, Cheney. And we have some well, yes, season's greetings to you, Gordon. Thank you very much. And to Edwin. Certainly folks will want to hear what Cheney is saying. I think probably it might be your blue screen. I think it's your screen that might be giving you that distorted color. But Cheney, we have quite a bit to talk about, and one of the things I want to just get off the bat with, and I think you had accepted my invitation to speak about that just briefly, though. And because the meat of the matter, we look at sports administration, we look at performances 2024 and looking forward to 2025. Hopefully we get quite a bit to talk about. But as you know, I don't know if you saw my piece that I wrote regarding, you know, the GBSS sports meet, the plight of Maguire House, though they finished third. But the bigger picture I was trying to put regarding, and I think it may be, some schools may have it, some schools may not have it, right? The sort of inequality, I would say, or the parity in terms of selection. I know when we went to school, for example, you were in the same house I was in. I don't know how we got in that house, per se, because I can say here that I attended the GBSS with my twin brother. We entered the GBSS together, but I was in one house and he was in the other. I was in red, he was in yellow. All my other siblings went to the same house, yellow. So there's something about the equity and thing like that. And then we had the situation where you're going to secondary school for the first time. A parent has someone going to secondary school for the first time. There's no family ties. How do you decide which house they go to if there's no family ties? Okay, so all these things. But quickly and briefly, Cheney, your views on that whole issue of the equity in terms of ensuring that all the houses in all the schools, even if you have the family ties, that could be one thing that we can take care of. But after that, you ensure that all the houses are equal. Cheney?
Well, again, good afternoon to you and to your viewers and listeners and your co-host, Rudian. In my case, I had two cousins who were in GBSS ahead of me, Rolla and Jude Francis. And they were supposedly in Maguire House. And because the buzzer at the time was also related to me, she indicated to Mr. Phil Free back then that I was related to them and they put me in Maguire House. I was excited to be in Maguire House because of some of the people who were there. Anyhow, fast track to now, I think the basis on which they are choosing students for these houses can be relooked. They say change is constant and there's nothing to be afraid of if you attempt to do something with good intention and to give it a shot. My personal view is that GBSS knows the intake each year. Let's just use as a figure 200. You have 4 houses. You have numbers 1 to 200, or you can have simple Maguire 50 slots and the other houses 50 slots, regardless of whether you are academically inclined or you're into sport or technical or otherwise or nothing at all. I think that could bring some equity, and also it probably will allow for more competition because you know, looking back at what is happening in the GBSS case, it would seem to me that Maguire House has been able to produce good footballers and cricketers maybe, but not good track and field athletes. Or maybe, I'm just assuming here, maybe all the academians are in Maguire House. But I think maybe because we have a new principal, maybe it's something that he might want to look at and to determine how they could create a little bit more balance in future sporting events.
Okay, and certainly it also has to do with I will keep saying those who are there to help motivate. For example, Robert Phillip from Archer House, the Blue House, whether it's Archer House or whether it's the GBSS, he's in the front and a motivator. We don't, Hughes House, we are seeing that in Von Joseph, for example, but we don't see that probably in Maguire House. I don't think they have that sort of energy as the others. And that could be a factor too, because you have to have the people who can help motivate. I mean, when we were there, you have to have the house captain and the marshals and others, the teachers who will help to motivate. I was reading, for example, for SAS, for example, even Mr. Job Alexander, who's not really at SAS anymore, but he's still part of the whole process of the St. Andrews Anglican Secondary School and assisting, and so sometimes you may have to look even from the outside to get people who will be able to come and assist in the motivation.
Yeah, supporting that last point you make, it doesn't have to be teachers in the school who's there every day. One consideration can be simple. You have former students of the school who might have succeeded in different things. You have some who are doctors, lawyers, engineers, administrators, managers, the rest of it. So maybe what the school can schedule is, for example, each of the houses can schedule one person to visit a month, just to give a 20, 30-minute motivational speech. So if you get 12 such visits over a 1-year period, I believe it can lend to some improvement with what's happening presently.
Yeah. And it must not just be on the eve of intercall and these sort of things. That should be all year long. And that should be not just for sports, but even sports should be part of the package. Academics, speaking about, issues regarding whether it's the law. There are a lot of former students who are, and from various schools, who are probably, let's say, in the Royal Grenada Police Force, who can come in and speak about the law. So schools can use that as a means of ensuring that, their students understand that. Probably a legal expert can come in and speak a particular month on legal issues. A doctor, medical issues,
You have many other things. I mean, for example, if I'm not mistaken, Dash won GBSS. He's doing well, not just as an officer, he's doing well in entertainment. There might be 1 or 2 students in GBSS right now who is eyeing entertainment as the industry that they may go into. We now have the creative art. We have persons like Orlando Romaine and others who might just be able to just go in there and speak to the house, at least if not the school. But I was just thinking back about, I don't know for you, Michael, do you know I made 2 finals in the speech night competition that GBSS used to have? Did you ever take part in that?
Yeah, I did. As a member of the choir, though. But
but I actually,
while you participate as a member, doing that, my main participation at the speech night used to be receiving awards. So
okay.
I beat you on that.
Fair enough. I mean, a little joke though. I think it was Form 4 I was at the time. And I was in speech night. I remember a fellow named Davidson Graves and another person. Was 3 of us in the final. And I was doing awesome. That's the first time my mom came to any of those things that I participated in. And for the whole time I was doing well. And Mike, it was like about 1 more minute, because you had to memorize almost 5 minutes of writing. And something accidentally caused me to look at my mom. And then I went kind of blank and I said, oh God, what is it again? What is it again? But anyhow, what I'm saying with all of what I'm saying is that there's still people who went before who can lend support to the GBSS. And I believe it's for the school to determine whether or not such support is required.
Right, that's good. Cheney, let's look at 2024 in a nutshell. In terms of Grenada, and it's and by the way, I think I was just looking there, and I think the problem we have in there is the light at the back of you. I think it's coming into the camera, so that's the problem. Yeah,
and you have to change angle. If you can just take me off, and I'll just change angle.
Yeah, that's fine. I appreciate. I think that's the issue. We are getting the light instead of he's getting the light. You know, but Rudy.
But Michael, one of the things that when I'm just listening to you guys, the way you guys did it in your school,
right.
In Magan College, we had to dip ourselves. You know, they go around to and we dip, and whatever color we get, so it falls on us. Right? It's not that they're putting us in something else, because it's funny that my mom and I end up in the same house. My uncle was in a different house. My aunts, they was in a different house, you know. So we are always in different things. But surprisingly, my mother and I was in the same house. But one of the things too they have is technology. The way Cheney put it, today we have technology and programs you can write, and you know all the students coming in, and the computer can select it for them. So you know it's going to be even. Yeah. It's going to be even amongst that. So you come to a time of technology now where you know the kids coming in, you put them in the system, and I'll let the computer select it for them. Instead of, because there will be that biasness coming in. Yeah, because like you said, there's I was in red and you was in red Bascom too. You know, I was in red in Magan College.
Cheney was in red.
And and certainly that, you know, you have athletes coming in who, based on the house they get, you know, that house, you know, rise up, you know, because it's in sport. And you have some, like I said, in some schools, they don't have no athletes. They don't have no, you know, anybody that can, you know, like lift them up, right? So
Rudian, it makes sense if I am going to a secondary school for the first time and I have no family ties and I have to decide on a house. Come on, tell me which house you will look for. You will choose, right? As any sensible person, you'll look for a house that has
the best house
of winning. If I'm a footballer, I'm looking for the house probably with the best footballers. You know,
Michael, I'm gonna play the devil's advocate.
It makes sense.
Young people are smarter than we were 20, 30, 40
and with
years
technology
ago.
and with the availability
of technology today. With technology,
not just the technology in general. I mean, people have a fondness for colors. I'm not being political here, but you're saying, you know, some people may not want to wear red simply because red signifies a party that's losing, or a team that's not doing well. But I think what Rudian is saying makes a lot of sense. You have whether it's software or whatever it is.
Software,
plays around with the numbers. We have AI. And you simply allow for a more fair or
and even amount of numbers going into, because selecting doesn't really make it even. Correct. Because, you know, I think it's fair that if you do it in the sense of in terms of let the computer do it for you and it select the houses. They have an idea coming in what it is exactly the algorithm that they're going in. You know, coming back, and I want to talk about the motivation as well. When I came back from the Olympics, the first thing the first speech I did was at a high school, and they actually asked me to speak on education as well as drugs. So there is certain things that you can invite people in to come and motivate these kids, or even speak to them. Even have government agents or government personnel can also come in and give a speech as well. So, and they don't necessarily have to go to the school, but it's something that can be motivated for the athletes. Oh, really, no, sorry, for the students.
I want to join with what you said for one reason. It might sound weird. I always like to take the devil's advocate position sometimes. It doesn't hurt for you to have a former student who ended in trouble, who has been through the criminal system, to come and speak to students
and speak as well.
Should not be part of the life I chose, right? So I think, personally speaking, when I look at how things are going now, I am worried for the next 5, 10, 15 years in terms of who would be able to speak to a young child. It's one of my concerns.
I've been worried a long time ago, so suddenly,
Mike and I grew up in the same area, right? And I'll tell you that if his mom saw me doing something that she knew wasn't wrong, not she waiting to tell my mother, she shouted at me there and she says,
they correct me.
Come, let me talk to you. And I'll be very honest with you, they were like mentors to us in the community. Today, I'm not too sure.
You don't have that. Yeah.
You know, so
well, I get beat down the road before I get home, and when I get home, my grandmother hear about it too, and I get him beat too. So the community raised us. We was raised with the community. That no longer there, and even you don't really find a lot of parents coming in school because the school usually take care. I think we passed the fact of beating in school, so I think that really been passed already based on the time we're living in. But parents don't usually come in school because the school take care of whatever issue that happens in school. Now you have parents coming in and fighting teachers or cussing teachers, and then that creates an issue for the kid because the kids is right there listening, and they have that support. So it's a different norm. But if you have these personnel coming in and speaking to them, real life, real situation. This is what I've been through. This is what happening. And you talk about police officers, even with young men, having some men come in and say, well, at the age of 14, I got someone pregnant. Those type of things is real life, and they're going to have the understanding of what it's like. And I think that is really lacking today. And if they get that in, we have a better generation moving forward.
But I want to say something here. Sorry, Mike.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just reflecting on my boyhood days, right? And I'm not just talking about the place where I grew up, River Road. In general, part of our problem that we're experiencing these days is simply because of a breakdown in society. And when I say a breakdown in society, I'll just say, for example, yes, we have a club that was established since 1969. I'm talking specifically Queen's Park Rangers.
Yep.
We don't have a functioning club, although we have a performing club. So back in the day when we were young fellas, we looked forward to be a member of Queen's Park Rangers, the River Road Youth Development Organization. There were about 3 or 4 organizations that youths growing up were attempting to be part of, or their parents sent them to, or an elderly in the community embraced them and brought them in. What I am seeing that is a bother to me now, notwithstanding we have 39 clubs in the GFA, we probably have 40 clubs in St. Andrews Cricket or whatever. Their role beyond the sport has somewhat diminished. And as a result of that, we are experiencing some challenges with how our young people are growing up today. But I'm hopeful that it's never too late to fix those issues, and that we can get back to having communities where, people will at least embrace young people to make sure they are molded properly before they go
That's
astray.
a very nice segue going into what we want to talk about, Cheney, because I think I want to hear from you more about vision for 2025 beyond what we may have accomplished in 2024. But let me just take some comments there, because Hazel had said making sure there's a balance in the houses is one way, but maybe doing a talent identification earlier and ensure there is a balance across houses. Also, motivation and showing pride is so important. I remember being in Greenhouse and we took pride in winning. We didn't win March Pass, but we dominated in the field. So she's speaking about St. David's Catholic Secondary School, for example, and talent identification. I think some of the houses are doing that.
But Michael, but at the same time, I think we're missing the surpriseness of just whatever house you get in, whoever is in it. And I think going into school now, we get to a point where we have to identify certain people to go certain places. That the fun about it is no longer there, because before, remember, house sports used to be anybody competing. It doesn't matter who it is. Everybody wants to give their house a point, so they just
what is
perform,
happening. What is happening in addition to that? And I understand his point. For example, when I mentioned Vaughn Joseph is from a particular house, but he goes out and looks for talent, like how Vida used to go and look for dead bodies for the Anakin High School. He does it for his house. Well, I mean, he does it for the school, but because he's attached to a house, automatically, I assume, it's for the house. But so there's nothing wrong in someone in Maguire or Batiste or let's say Nash House, SAS, let me go to SAS, Nash, whatever is it in McDonald College, Glean. I don't know if we have a Glean House now, right? Yeah. There's nothing wrong in them looking for talents within the primary school settings and getting the student into the McDonald College or SAS or GBSS or whichever school and getting them into their house. I don't think anything.
But
Listen,
it's taken away. I still think it's taken away.
I know.
That thing, because now it's become it's no longer fun no more, you know. Yeah.
Unless there is a system in place, then you have no other option but to do what's best for you. And I'm saying it may be as an issue when you look at the equity, because some houses may be able to attract others and other talent because they have reigned supreme, like in the case of let's say Kirani James. I want to be in the house that Kirani James was in, etc. I want to be in the house that person was, these sort of things. So I'm saying, unless you have a system in place, as you say, for example, you have the algorithms or whatever it is you use, the technology, fine. If you don't have it, then it's up to anyone to do what they want, and students could decide where they want to go and all these sort of things,
But then you could have 20, you could have 50 kids coming into GBSS, all want to go to the same house. And how are you going to say no to that?
It's just, maybe it's too far-fetched, but I know it happens in Trinidad, I know it happens in Barbados and possibly Jamaica, where from as early as when kids are in pre-primary school, the parents or the students don't decide where they want to go in terms
of school,
or even college, right? And besides that, though, I know in some of these places, you also have coaches and teachers vetting, or should I say, scouting for different talent, because even academics, because some teachers they look to see who are the A+ students and they try to get them into the institution because it makes the institution more reputable. So I imagine it's happening, but it probably isn't happening in a formal way as it probably should happen.
Because in addition to that, if you talk about the tradition and all these things, Cheney, and I know, and Rudian probably knows, because I heard Mr. Carl Handel saying that probably he's hoping that one day Rudian kids will be able to attend the McDonald College. There are past students of particular schools whose kids are attending another school.
Yes.
I know of one who will support the GBSS to the bone. His son is attending Presentation Brothers College.
Well, Mike, I might run into trouble on your program. I will say to you, if I have a choice to choose for someone who's close to me, I probably will push them to PBC, and not because PBC.
And there are reasons.
The truth about it is because the numbers are smaller. Mm-hmm. More attention will be given to the students in a smaller institution. That's the assumption I'm making. Hence the reason why, my honest opinion is 40 people in a class really didn't make sense. That's just my view.
Well, we have the same issue out here as well. But suddenly I do get what you're saying in terms of that. I have a very, 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 one of my best friends who definitely sending her daughter to convent in St. George's, and she lives in St. Patrick's because of what convent provide, the way the system set up, and she went to McDonald College and she played sports, but her daughter will go to a different school because of what they have to offer, not necessarily in sports, but in academics. What they have, McDonald College don't have it. So that's why they do that. So that is an issue as well.
There is a challenge for whether it is Ministry of Education or the principals and teachers of school. What prevents us from moving from 4 houses to 8 houses in a school?
Come on, Cheney, man. Come on.
I'm asking.
The numbers.
8 houses?
The numbers.
Okay, but then
I would say the numbers.
Think about it.
Give it some thought. You may not be able to respond now.
All right, so you think about it. Let me get some comments here, and then we have to go back to that point you were making earlier in terms of the community sports and all these sort of things. We probably may have to borrow some time. By the way, Cheney, have you finished cooked for? Well, no. Have they finished cooked? I just want to know.
Yeah, I finished planting this morning, and then I went on to cooking this earlier on.
Calvin Hector say, how can I not look at this program with two of my favorite sports people? Message of good afternoon. Hi, Hector. Good morning to you. Well, afternoon where you are. Oh, here is Mr. Robert Phillip now. That's the gentleman we have here. He says, gentlemen, when I entered GBSS in the late 70s, Maguire House was the house to beat. They dominated almost all the sporting areas and won the cross country regularly. The problem I have is that new students are of the view that Maguire was always weak and always came last in sports. This is a big fallacy. Maguire has produced some of the best individual athletes. We're speaking about Anthony Jericho Greenidge and recently Lyndon Victor. Listen, I don't think Mr. Phillip, by the way, Mr. Phillip is a diehard Archer House, which is blue. So obviously, yeah. And we are speaking about him in terms of motivating and things like that. So I don't think it's so much thinking of Maguire being weaker, because Maguire, between 2004 and 2009, Maguire won. And there are times Maguire has been very competitive. And I know during my time, Maguire used to go to Sports Day, not go to Sports Day, will win the most points on Sports Day. However, because the other houses are coming into Sports Day with such a large lead, they cannot overcome that, right?
That's true.
So that's the problem. And then we have, and I spoke to some teachers of recent, only up to this week. That's why I had some ideas of what I was writing. And the central point that was being made is a lack of motivation of the student. For example, cross country. All the houses outnumbered Maguire House in terms of participation. And you know cross country carries some points. You can get at least a minimum, at least a point if you finish. So whereas the other houses will get probably 100-something points, Maguire will get 40 or 50-something points because of participation, because of the number.
So many students from Maguire are now issuing health certificates.
Yeah. So it used to be compulsory. The only reason you cannot do cross country is that you have to have a medical certificate determine that they cannot. Right? And guys used to try all sorts of things, but you have to, even if it means you have to walk, you have to participate. That was important. So I think it has to do a lot with what it is the other houses are doing to motivate, to encourage their students to participate. I was reading up some of the issues, not the issues, but some of the comments from SAS, for example, because they started their cross country and all these sort of things. And I looked at the starting line of the SAS, and then I look back at the GBSS starting line. I said, but GBSS with almost 700 plus boys. And looking at the comparison in terms of a school that is smaller in numbers to a school that is so large, and you find there are more students participated in the cross-country at the St. Andrews Anglican Secondary School than at the GBSS. Something has to be wrong in terms of motivating, in terms of getting them, inspired and wanting to participate. Even the march past, for example, I asked why there was no march past. There was a drum corps. Boys don't interested in march. Jenny, you know we had to march. March past was a thing for points. You want to have
any nights and
it tells you that there is a problem. And no matter what people are saying, I saw some folks giving comments about I need to research about Maguire and this. Hey, listen, Maguire needs someone who can really assist in motivating. Right now is a leadership crisis, and I leave it like that.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a quick question.
Mike, it might be a little rebranding. Just change the name for a little while.
Let me ask a quick question. What is the incentive in GBSS? Is there an incentive for winning? Like, what is the incentive?
Well, that's the other thing about it. There's
And
right now
that could be the difference. That could be the change.
So that
If
is
you
the
have
other
something,
thing.
yeah.
That is the other thing why at the end of it, I said in my comments, in my opinion, I said about reconsidering, because one of the things that was brought to my attention by some of the students again, by the teachers, I should say, was the lack of incentive. So, for example, in this day and age, Cheney, a Victor Ludorum is just a trophy again. Eh? You just get a trophy, and most times you have to give back the trophy after. So it's just you hold it up, take a photo, and then you give them back it, right? So all these things are things where the sports committee has to look at and look at how you can help to motivate.
So here is my incentive. I believe Mr. Philip is on your program. So Mr. Philip, effective 2025, once I'm around, every champion that Maguire House can produce, I personally will give them not just a trophy, I'll give them a little cash incentive. I'm not saying how much yet.
Mr. Philip is attached to Archer House, right?
Well, tell him to pass on the message.
They can get a free. They can get a free lunch. They can get free something. They can get a. Also, if you have, I don't know if you guys have the which I noticed it's lacking in a lot of schools. Have the flags, the national flag. I don't know if you guys have a national flag pole at your school. A flag. You could have a pole with a flag, and that flag fly all year long as the champion school. So there's a lot of incentive that you could use. Yeah.
A sports committee should be able to look at and come up with ideas than just the same old thing over and over. Something that can motivate, encourage participation across the board. And by the way, some of the things that we are speaking about at the GBSS, some schools have similar problems like that.
A lot of problems.
So it can be something that can be rectified across the board. Mr. Phillips says that placement of athletes was always based on family connection. However, winning houses will attract students who didn't have one family member that attended GBSS, which is true. And Roger Duncan says GBSS is one of the very few government-owned schools, but you get the feeling it's treated as an orphan by its owner, looking on intently. We give incentives at St. David's Catholic Secondary School, and it comes from the
alumni.
Right.
Yeah.
So we come back to probably when we borrow some time, we'll come back to that. We have quite a bit.
But Michael, before you do that, let me say something, and then Cheney could probably tie it in his answer real quick. So what I wanted to say, Cheney, is that we talk about the things that we did as young people and the clubs and all these things are happening. So my question is it not you guys' fault, but I'm saying my generation, is it our fault? Yes, I'm not in Grenada anymore, who didn't continue the generation, continue these programs on, because then today we're blaming the technology, the kids going home and going to the tablet and they have the TV and all this stuff now, but there is no programs. There is no programs for them. So we're blaming one thing. So continue that and just tie that into what you're about to say.
Yeah, well, in my case, the way I see it, I don't think there's a chance to blame anyone. What I believe is there was a discontinuation or there was a gap with the transfer of whether it is norms, information, interests, there was a gap. And that gap, there were two different times when that gap took place. I personally believe during the period just after the revolution, a lot of people kind of went into isolation, people who were given of their time. They were also treated as persons, who weren't desired at this point in time. Also, I would admit to you, those people that we used to call gay-eyed, a lot of them used to give a lot of their time, energy, and everything else in sport. And somehow they were treated as not wanted. And as a result of that, somehow a lot of them went by the wayside. In recent times, though, that's just my view, a few of the dominant sport has taken on what I call a geopolitical approach to things, which created division amongst its membership. and not just in football. We all know that football is like the green and yellow in Grenada. It happened in track where there were similar kind of, let's put it like that, challenges with, different factions. Cricket has had that a bit. I know volleyball also has experienced that. I'm not too sure about some of the other sport, but what you find happen after a while when these people have these, what I call feud amongst them, one group decide I had enough, they back away and they go with years of experience and knowledge away from the sport. That's just my view. And whether or not we like it, politicians have embraced the division and even continued to support some of these divisions in some areas. That's, in my honest opinion, the reason for it. Because whether or not you like it, I don't know if here is the right program to say it. I was likened to one color versus the other, and nobody knows exactly where I, as an individual, have been committed to when it comes to politics. But, these are the things that people in a small country like Grenada do. And what you find happening a lot of times is after a while, you feel, well, no one wants your expertise, so you walk away. So I believe that has affected many organizations and associations in Grenada. Look, we can use cricket as an example. Cricket used to be one of the most vibrant sports in Grenada on a Saturday and a Sunday. You could drive any part of the country, St. David, St. Andrew, St. Mark, even St. John, and there were hardball cricket, softball cricket. We didn't use that 2020, but there used to be 40 overs aside, 40 it used to be, right? These things are normal, but part of the problem is, truthfully, the current administrators, some past administrators, and people in the different clubs who have challenged one another without seeing the importance of teamwork.
All right, look at that, Cheney. This year is members of the River Road, Dabo, Sanssouci Citizen Advisory Group. All right. Along with Superintendent Smith-Roberts, then Superintendent Smith-Roberts. That was quite some years ago because your mom is in that photo.
I'm watching them.
Yeah, your late mom is there. My mom is there. In fact, there are a number of folks who have so far left us, right, in that photo. And that's the sort of community thing that we're speaking about, right? I'm seeing my mom. In fact, I'm seeing my youngest sister because I think she was the moderator.
I'm seeing her sitting on the head table.
Right, with the microphone near to her there. And
that's Tyrone
Buckmeyer, right? Your mom is right to the back with the head tie. My mom is to the left. Right. So I'm saying that to say that what you're speaking about there, this was a citizen advisory group of communities, right, coming together, and they were discussing obviously issues with the police and things. Because I'm seeing two police officers there. In fact, there are three. One from actually River Road, standing in the back, and then you had Smith-Roberts and the one sitting on the head table there. But it shows you at the time, how the communities were coming together, and a lot of them had the interest in sports as well. I mean, we don't see the footballers, but some of them used to be on the sidelines, like your mom, like my mom, used to be on the sidelines supporting Queen's Park Rangers and things like that. So what it is has gone wrong, Cheney?
Well, like I said, I don't want to repeat myself. I remember joining Atoms first because I couldn't make Queen's Park Rangers, right? And then when I felt I was good enough to make Queen's Park Rangers, I moved across. So I was probably about 16 at the time. And when Rangers would be traveling, for example, to play a game in the country, there was a minimum of 4 buses. One was to the team, and there was a minimum of 3 buses, which that's just our spectators. But then there were other people who had their own transport. There are some people even used to pay a bus and go up on their own, and they would get a ride down or whatever. Now, if you ask me, I'm sorry, I might be moving away a little bit in answering you. A friend of mine always say, if you don't know, ask someone whom you think might know so that you will look good. And one of the challenge we have in Grenada in particular is we've pushed people aside. And because we've pushed people aside,
or push them aside too quickly?
Well, maybe too quickly, but push aside, I will say, because I don't want this program to be about Cheney. But we push people aside, and what we don't take into consideration is their value. Case in point, Queen's Park Rangers used to have a netball team, a solid netball team. It's still going, by the way, thanks to Babs. We used to have a track team. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah. Your sister was one of the
yes,
athletes, yeah.
Right. We used to have a volleyball team. Right. We started learning it from the Berian people, Mr. Briggs and them. But then we formed a volleyball team there. Almost every sport there was formerly in
even basketball.
Grenada,
that's why we had the basketball coach.
Same with, yeah, correct. And so what I think has happened is that people have not given themselves a chance to acquaint themselves with the things of the past, even if they have a vision for moving the sport to the next level. Case in point, I mean, I'm not here to bash the GFA. I heard in the last thing there, because I was not physically there, I couldn't make it. They said Grenada played against Jamaica in the Shell Caribbean Cup final.
No.
They called Patty Nixon and Curry as members of the 1989 squad.
No.
Yeah. We did not recognize persons who served in administration from the 70s down to the 50s or 40s or 30s or 20s. And these information are available. Elliot Maguire is alive. Royston Lahey is alive. Walter St. John is alive. Ray Roberts is alive. Oswald Pele Dabo. And I'm just talking about some people who are older than me, even though I have been around football from, let's say, 1979. I'm talking about Grenada football. But the challenge we have is that we don't give ourselves an opportunity to engage people, even though we're saying to them, it's your time to move on or to pass the baton. So that's part of the problem. The other thing is, I maintain, politicians and politics has caused divisions within communities, and some people have walked away from organization because of who is perceived to be in the head. He's blue, I am white. I'm not hanging out with these blue people anymore. And they move away, and it affects organization. The politicians has to now take a stand and come back to bringing us back together, because they are responsible for the division that exists amongst us in many, not just in sport, in many areas of society at this point in time.
I'm just smiling, Cheney, not because of what you said in the politicians, but your good friend Paul Roberts says that you're helping the demise of atoms. Did you break up atoms?
well, Paul and I have always had.
Tell Cheney, and then he adds himself and 9 members of QPR youth. Well, he had to be the youth team. So what it is, that's what you all want to form another team?
Paul is absolutely correct. The 9 of us who went to Atoms, we could not make Rangers at the time. So you're talking about Kennedy Medford, Cecil Victory, Sissy Bud, Thaddeus Andrew, Zagada Cyrus, Darwin Drayton, Monty Drayton, myself, Martin Felix, Godfrey Williams.
All national players after, right?
All of us eventually played for the national team. So all of us could not make Rangers team. By the way, Rangers had a first division and a second division team, but we could not make any of those. So we went to Atoms. I spent 4 years with Atoms, 3 years, with Atoms. And then all of us, give Rado credit. Rado said, yo, you guys looking good. It's time for you to come back home. Paul, my apologies.
So that's all. You all mash up the play. Right. Roger said, I don't want my point to be misconstrued, but government as an owner is also a stakeholder. Building capacity for the school athletic program, a mega athletics institution, requires government to play a lead role. Let's discuss the roles. Certainly. Bob says, good day. Well said, Cheney. They actually push you aside like you did nothing or know nothing. So the point, therefore, Cheney, is that in going forward, and now with the likes of the National Sports Council and the Parish Sports Council, are you optimistic?
Very optimistic about sports in general in Grenada. Some of the sporting disciplines may not be where we need to be at this point in time. But I will admit to you, we can't hold on to grudges. And if anyone thinks that I, for example, is holding on to the past, no. I'm just simply being the lone opposition because no one seems to want to tell us when we're doing wrong. I am very optimistic. I will, by the way, let me publicly congratulate. I hope he can allow me to say I'm his friend, Patrick Simmons, on becoming the chairperson of the National Sports Council. I think the government made a great decision in choosing him, not just as a former sports minister and administrator in Sporting Association. I think he came from the bowel of sports. He was a national athlete. He's a very knowledgeable person, and he has the right temperament. He's a great listener. So I think him being there is ideally the right person to lead it. I am hoping somehow that the team surrounding him, which is the different parish chairpersons, will embrace the opportunity and not just use it for CVs, because too often we have a lot of people operating in Grenada just for their CVs. What I would like to see quickly from them, the sports policies in place, I would like to see from the same National Sports Council a strategic plan that is influenced by engagement of all the national associations. Granted, we have the Olympic Committee there, but I believe if we can have a marriage of the Olympic Committee, the National Sports Council, and the national associations, Grenada's sporting accomplishment in the future can be great. For example, I will just say to you, I believe to myself, we need to have set aside exclusive fields so that we could develop more cricketers. We have challenges where cricketers have to compete with other sporting disciplines for the use of the field sometimes. So if we can dedicate at least one playing field per parish for cricket, so that when you want to see cricket or you want to play cricket, at least you have one such playing field. The same for the other sporting discipline. I am of the opinion quickly that football and track and field can coexist, by the way. And so we don't have to do an exclusive football versus exclusive track and field. Last but by no means least, it is important, and I hope that's part of the government vision and Mr. Simmons and his team vision, that we have what I call a National Sporting Academy. And the reason for that is we need to be spotting talents at age 8, 9, get them into these sporting academies and give them the necessary support from very early. Having said that, there's a young fella by the name of Tyrese Livingston. If that little boy can get the chance to, let's say, go to the UK, or he can get under the hands of a good coach, he will be definitely one of Grenada's homegrown professional footballers. Naturally gifted, he just needs to be guided. And I believe the same applies with many other sports. We have lots of other people in other sports. But again, it's not for me to say, but I am answering you by saying, yes, I'm highly optimistic and very hopeful for the future. With that being said, I must compliment the Olympic Committee for embracing people like Hazeland. I hope, Kirani will find a very important role to play in Grenada. Notwithstanding, he's on, according to them people, he's in the VIP lounge right now. He might be in the departure lounge in the next 3 or 4 years as an athlete. But him, we have to start using him more often now. I don't believe Lyndon and Anderson, we should really push them into that direction too much now because they have a few more years. Let them focus on excelling their skill. Rudian and others who have experienced it, Dylan Felix and many others, we can learn something from these people, and I think they needs to be there. One last point, if I can say this, Michael. When I was a little boy, I had many sporting mentors. I'll just use Jetsstars and Queen's Park Rangers netball just as a start, or Huggins netball. You know, people like Babs Jero, Teresa Beggs, Diane Bayam,
I am.
my sister, my sister Eve, Susan St. Louis, and there were others. They were like inspiration to me as girls playing good netball, and not girls, sorry, they are ladies, playing netball and representing the country. So they were our heroes. Fellas like Flash, Trevor Wilson, Beef, you know, Michael Bridgman, Rado Griffith, Cyrus Griffith, these people, Bumpy as the first ever FIFA referee, they were inspiration to us as a community. And what I am hinting you smartly is we have lost track of recognizing our local, and when I say local now, I'm talking about community heroes. And as a result of that, there's no one exemplified. Curry, Patty,
No, but that's and so I said we will borrow some time, so don't try to rush. But because I have this other one here, Cheney, where I'm seeing you sitting at the extreme left, and let me see, 3 of the 5 are deceased, right? Because I see Mr. Joseph Charter, there is Sarge,
and Cyril Nixon.
Yeah. Sergeant Cyril Nixon. We have the late sports minister, Adrian Mitchell. And then we have, she was at the bank, I think, at the time. I'm trying to remember her last name. Yeah. But the folks on the both ends are still with us, Cheney Joseph. But I always have come across this picture, Cheney, and I'm always trying to find out what it was about, because it has to do with sports. Because Adrian Mitchell at the time was a sports minister. I think Joseph Charter may have been the permanent secretary in sports.
Yes.
Cyril Dixon was deeply involved
Dixon
in sports.
was involved in football.
Okay.
He was involved in football. But I believe the discussion there was to do with an overall sports, and granted, I'd be very straightforward. I believe I was representing Maguire because I was the first vice president. Because Maguire should have been the person there. But I believe we were speaking about how we can improve sport in general, and there was some discussions that were taking place there. I can't remember the specifics though.
You're right. But again, I'm just showing you that we have some history, right? And we sometimes we can go into the archives. You know, from time to time I personally go into the archives and, you know, come up with something. I know Cheney will be my guest, so at least I went into the archives and I found something there. Just but probably could not remember that you were part of the breaking up of atoms. So thanks, Paul, for that information. You know, thanks for that information, Paul. That so Hazel says, Cheney, I love all the ideas you mentioned. I also think mentorship is crucial as well, right? And thank you, Martin. So going back to some of the critical issues, I know you sort of put things into a nutshell in terms of what you would like to see in terms of sports and things, but what's about at the community level as well? You started speaking about, let's say, and you use the River Road as an example, but we know that in some of the parishes, for example, let me look at St. Andrew with, let's say, cricket. It's all because of that strong community cricket program they had, because most of the communities in St. Andrews used to participate in the St. Andrews Cricket League. On a weekend, I mean, you know, when Mr. George, I'm trying to remember his name, but he used to be giving us this roundup, and you're hearing Claudius George. You have A division, B division, and C division, right? In cricket in St. Andrews. Now, that will tell you how strong it was at that level. Because you're talking about some of the teams, for example, Idlers, I'm just using as an example, have a team they have so many cricketers in the community that they have a team in the A division and they have a team in the B division or the C division. like how Rangers used to have a team. Remember, Rangers used to have in the first division and the second division, but only
and they had a tiny mic.
Right. But remember, your two teams, even though Rangers may be able to qualify to go up for promotion, because you already have a team in the first division.
First division.
Yeah.
But they both used to win. They both used to win each division.
Each division, but just one team that will, and things like that. So how can we see going back to that level where we can see some strong community sporting administration as well? Community sports administration at the community level.
So I mentioned earlier on about the politicians, right? And I have no apology saying so.
But don't they have a role to play as well, Cheney?
Yeah. So I'm getting the point across. Maybe what we can try initially is either you have district sports, whether it's by polling division or constituencies, right? We can try to have sports, like a sports day in each parish, where you probably have it by polling division or constituency. I'm not sure about how it goes because there's only 15 constituency, but each constituency may have 6, 7, 10 polling division. And we can just try to create a fun day whereby we get a little of each sport being played. I think in fairness to the people of St. Andrew, if it's not Moncton, it's Sab. One and the two of them normally have something of the sort.
Moncton.
Yeah. Right. And what they would have is I went up to it a few times. Yeah. They would have things like track and field, a little football, a little cricket, the rest of it. And if we could get that back, one of the things that would start happening instantly is people will feel a sense of appreciation and belonging. Thereafter, we can start informal arrangements of discussions with people as to where there might be deficiencies in organizations or where would they be able to help given the fact that they are now considered seniors and the rest of it. For example, I'll tell you, Babs, my apology if I call your name a little bit too often on this program. I yearn to see Queen's Park Rangers netballers and footballers back together, right? I yearn to see that. And I'm hopeful that it will happen. Hurricane, for example, calls itself a sports club, but I don't know if they have any other sporting teams like cricket, netball, the rest of it. I know, for example, Paradise may have a structure that is not solely football. I'm subject to correction. But that is what I yearn to see. And it's simple. What we can do, just like we've had, and I must give the current minister for sport, that's Delma Thomas, I must give her credit. I saw they had like about 4 or 5 youth symposium engagement, whatever it is, where young people were meeting to talk. Similarly, I think they can try to have similar initiatives, maybe 1 or 2 per parish, to allow young people to come and give their own perspective on what they believe can be done for sport in particular to help develop the sport. Personally speaking, we need to also marry the locals with those in the diaspora. I think we treat them as outsiders, not just administrators or coaches, also players. I think there is a need for a marriage of those people on the outside. They want to give back just the same. And if we can embrace that, I think that could help. But to start it though, cricket, football, the top 4 or 5 sport that cost government a lot of money with support, financial support. The minister and her ministry should call these administrators, not just the president and vice president, call these administrators, let them come with the whole executive and not read a riot act, but say to them, look, we want to hear what you're doing. We want to help you some more. We want to see the sport set some targets and achieve those. And we want to get from you quarterly feedback on it, because the reality is maybe football's still active, maybe track and field still active, cricket has a new administration, but the last one was operating for about 2 years, but I've never heard of any major meetings or discussions or decisions. And we have other sports. Give volleyball some credit. They have recently had a new executive, and that new executive seemed to be doing a lot of work also. But that's the way I feel we have to go. But mind you, I want to be straightforward. You can't run away from using the schools. The schools is easier to organize than the community, but you could start with the schools and then you gradually get to where you want to get.
Yeah, well, you know, and you make some very important points there. What we have tried to distill in some way or the other, including like a national sports symposium, for example. 2 years now, we have been saying, listen, we need to start talking together, bring everyone together, and let's, you know, ventilate on issues of national development in terms of sports. We talk a lot about symposium on agriculture and all these other sectors, but somehow when it comes to sports, we stay far away from it. And by the way, you made the point about government, for example, and government spends quite a bit of money because in most cases, very rare you will find where the government will say no to an association requesting assistance, especially for participation outside. You want to send a team to a volleyball tournament, to a swimming tournament, to a this, and you ask for assistance, government will assist some way or the other, right? In most cases, there will be some form of assistance. I'm not saying all the time. And in some cases, I understand, even at a late request, right? However, how many of them are willing to sit down and say, here are our plans for 2025. Here is what we are doing for the development of the sport, first of all, right? Here is how we're doing to ensure that there's more community participation. Here is what we're doing to ensure that we can go into the villages in St. Patrick and have outreach programs, because not all of them will be able to travel to St. George's, to the stadium, or to some other major facility, but we can go out there and meet them, you know. But you know, they at times they reach out to whether it's the Olympic Committee or to the government.
Most time last minute. Most time
last minute. So I'm saying the point you're making there is very welcome, because you're saying not so much to read the Riot Act, but at least you have to let them know that we need to be accountable as well. Because if you come in for assistance, it's taxpayers' money, right? It's taxpayers' money. We don't have money just sitting there for football or for netball, you know, with an envelope mark netball, an envelope mark football or track and field, right? It's
and it shouldn't just be about participation. I personally believe sport in particular, sport is always a competition, right? Except you go in and play friendlies. And you must justify the expense, because it costs on an average football association maybe about $100,000 for every competition, minimum, I'm saying, $100,000 for each competition that they take in part in. And we can't just be runners-up. We can't just be competing for the sake of us traveling or sending a few people abroad. We must be striving to get to our next level. We'll get to football specific just now. But Mike, I want to make 2 points based on what I just heard you say. I don't know if the 51st independence is too soon. We had a lot of Grenadians came home for 50. I don't know if there's importance to 51. But one of the things that maybe the sports minister, the Ministry of Sport, the new chairman of the Sports Council could consider is to have what I call a national sports council. I mean, a national sports symposium, where you give people like Rudian and Kim Fullerton and, you know, all Joel Redhead and all the others, all the different people who have participated and still have an interest or wish to come to Grenada, a chance to come and let us have a nice discussion on how we can take the sport from where it is to where they believe we could go, based on what they are seeing also from outside. Because I'll say that to you, hence the reason why I brought up the talk, we put too much resistance to people in the diaspora. They are exposed to a lot more of advanced processes, advanced structure, advanced training, advanced equipment than we are. right? And we should utilize those kinds of people to help us gain knowledge that we don't get when we're sitting down in Grenada. If you drive too far on the left or too far on the right, you have to end up in the sea, right? So this is something I'm hoping we can do, have something maybe around Independence. I'm saying Independence or Easter, where you get some Grenadians who had performed at the different national sporting disciplines. A few of them still active, like the Aline Francique, for example, Akirani James, right? Kim Fullerton. And we have many others, Brendan Batson, Jason Roberts, Keith Fletcher. Bring these kinds of people together and ask them to, what's his name? Wilbur Thomas. Bring them together and let's hear your views.
Kyron Batiste.
Kyron Batiste. Let's hear your views on what we can do as a nation, not as an individual, as a nation, and to lend to future success in various sporting disciplines. Maybe we can invite, justifiably so, one or two international known faces, you know, whether it is a Julia Alfred, and, you know, her fiance or whoever. But it is one idea I have in mind. Secondly, I genuinely believe at the end of our sporting calendar for secondary schools, all of the schools coaches, all of the schools games masters, principals, PE teachers should be brought together again to do what I call a synopsis on what they saw throughout the sporting discipline for that school year and how can we improve on it before we start a new one. Mm-hmm. That's just my take on it. I didn't mention a good friend of ours, Bruce Swan. Bruce Swan is the technical director at
Bahamas.
Malika Church, she's running in the regional office in FIFA at Barbados. We have resources. They brought in Martin Harvey. Sorry, we don't need Brent Sancho and Anil Roberts. But bringing our local people who understands us and can lend support, but at the same time, don't come as know-it-all. Allow for engagement and see what we can do different. My take on it. Vida Bruno is a good person to consider also in that.
Yeah, I think quite a bit you said there, and let me take some points here, some comments. Oswald Gilbert says, powerful and genuine history being shared here, guys. He also says, engage once again Grenlec and secure sponsorship for Grenlec on the 16 competition. In my days playing football, that competition created a powerful nursery to the various football clubs that brought vibrant competitive football to the GFA. It may not be Grenlec still, but Grenlec could lay claim to that development process back then, Cheney, the under 16, that Grenlec under 16 competition.
Grenlec came back, but we did not do a good job with it. They came back, they gave us 120,000 for our grassroots program between 2012 and 2015. We did not do the best of it. Grenlec sponsored 1,200 uniforms and balls and many things. So they were paying coaches through the GFA. We did not do the best job there, and I'm forced to admit it. But I believe we still have a chance of getting from Grenlec because it's now back in the hands of the government of Grenada. All we need to do is to identify how we can give value and accountable to the monies that we may get. And that's where my problem is, Mike. Accountability. And sorry, I ran into trouble often in the GFA simply because many people thought I would allow for us to just simply use monies like that. I always say to myself, I treat any association that I'm part of just like my employers expect me to treat the work that I'm doing. And I think too often government gives money to associations without asking them to give some sort of accountability for use of these funds. And if we continue like that, we'll just simply have a revolving same process and same results.
All right. He continues also engage other private sector businesses to do the same in different sports on the island in various age groups. Kelvin Hector is saying we kill the sports ourselves by running away from the persons that's saying so much about the person in it and cannot do anything. We left, they didn't do anything, and that's it. We're too old to do the job. What a shame. Sometimes we say that we're too old to do the job.
Michael, I'm not yet 60, eh? I'm not yet 60, so I don't feel that old, right?
Yeah. He says sporting clubs need to be properly structured and constituted. And that's, that's another thing, Cheney. We may be asking for a lot to be done at some stage, but then if they're not structurally, properly structured and constituted, then we run into these sort of problems. Paul says every sport in Grenada started as parish organization. That's where we start. Okay.
Yeah.
And Roger says it's important that we come together to discuss our failures. It's something we often shy away from. Yeah. We always shy away from our failures, our problems, and all we're doing is creating more problems. Yeah. We not.
You and Rudy, and I'm not sure if I was the one to say it, but I'm just gonna say that here now. Only earlier on this week, I was appointed a director of the Grenada Chamber of Industry of Commerce.
All right, congratulations.
So one of the things I did commit to using the chamber and the private sector is to see how we can marry sports with the private sector. I think when I was a young fella, the private sector was deeply involved in sporting clubs in Grenada. We had, for example, the Dano Spartaks, Dano Alaska Spartaks, sorry. We had Coates Hurricane, Carib Hurricane, we had many.
Dano Carnage.
Dano Carnage, sorry, yeah. Right? Queen's Park Rangers first started off with Ronnie Thompson, right, as a sponsor. And then we went to Valrico Queen's Park Rangers. Yeah. What I believe is we may not be able to give what is really a sponsor, but I'm hoping again, and through Mr. Simmons and the Minister of Sport, I'm not here to advise you guys, but if we can also get the government to engage the private sector, especially the top 20, top 40 private sector, bigger organizations who might be making a few millions, get a discussion with them whereby government create an incentive for them to give to sporting associations or clubs and be able to benefit from some kind of write-off or waiver on taxes somewhere down the line, whether it is a company tax or whatever. So these are the kind of conversation I'm hoping that the chairman of the Sports Council might be engaging in discussions on. Likewise, the new Minister of Sport, I'm hoping that she might consider those kind of conversations. If government shows an interest in lending some sort of incentive to the private sector, I'm almost certain they will give. And they will give generously to the sporting association because some of these same people end up working back with them in their organizations.
Well, yeah, and the hope is that we really will get, and probably through your services through the Chamber of Commerce, we can see some of these some of the private sectors more involved. Like we have the GCIC Windball cricket competition.
The windball and the football has been excellent. In fact, I'm hoping that track and field, Mike.
Well, something like that.
That track and field will embrace it. We can do a one-day event. It don't have to be treated almost like the relays.
Right, something like that. But because back Whitsuntide Games, for example, many years ago, that's how Queen's Park Rangers used to participate as a club.
Yes,
It used to be a lot of clubs participated. It was a club event, right? You had Queen's Park Rangers with I always remember Queen's Park Rangers with a relay team, looking forward to that. The first time I saw Goatee Robinson running was at Whitsuntide. Yeah.
So I will tell you something that I can't remember her name now. The two soca artists, help me, brothers, Olive
from St. Patrick, yeah.
Help me now. Why is their name going now? Looney Spark and Electrify.
Right.
Do you know that mom used to live in River Road and used to be a national athlete? I remember her. I've seen her right now.
Speaking
about Lady Cynthia.
Yeah. I remember that.
Right. Oswald says Shell Queens Park Rangers. Yeah, remember Shell Queens Park Rangers?
Yes.
Said, Raybon says Dano was one time Eagles also.
Yes,
that was
yes,
Eagle Super
yes.
Strikers, right? Dano Eagle Super Strikers, right?
And I remember also Not Stars, JRB, anyhow, Mr. Hakamoff. He is someone that the GCNA sells the nutmeg and cocoa to in Europe. And he used to sponsor both McDonald College and North Stars at one point in time.
Wow.
JRB.
So, okay. And then Martin is asking, what about through the CBI? You know,
not a bad idea too.
Yeah, CBI. Yeah. And thanks for the program, gentlemen. Please don't be wary in what you are doing. In due time, you will see the various rewards. Well, we really hoping so. Anka Fontenoy, right? So, yeah. So we had a lot of those clubs, teams in some areas that were sponsored. They had very good, at one point in time,
they had active executive.
Right. They were organized.
Yeah.
Right? So, but the point we are making to Cheney, and we were talking about it some years ago, and you raised it to a point, is that where we can see them moving away from teams to clubs, more clubs. Ari Walker, don't forget the late Ari Walker. Tams came Fullerton, is reminding us.
Yes.
Ari Walker was another one, right? Very much
I played for that club.
Well, not just and played for the club, and he also sponsoring tournaments.
Yeah.
The Harry Walker tournament. The Harry Walker participated in Caribbean.
We took part in the Caribbean. Yeah, we played in Jamaica, in Tobago, in Guyana.
Yeah. The semi-pro with Harry Walker sponsored, right? So how we can see more of these teams moving in, and by the way, Cheney, because of just the team structure, that we see the demise. Because what happened is that, for example, and we can use football as an example, at the GFA, the coach of the team is the representative at council.
He's the manager. He's the manager.
He's a representative even at council, the coach. So there's no structure because you're the coach, you believe you can go to the council meeting and talk.
But no, Mike, it's a long conversation. I will be brief on it because deliberately I'm not going to I'm not going to beat up on the GFA here because
not just the GFA, I'm saying, but how can you mentioned Paradise, for example, you mentioned Hurricanes, and I'm saying in St. Mark's, for example, I don't know how many teams we have in.
Yeah, we have two clubs in St. Mark.
Two teams in St. Mark,
right? Hurricane.
But I'm saying what it is that's preventing Hurricane from being a club, as you say, it's a sports club. But apart from just football, probably a track and field. Probably that is where I may have to get Quincy Britton and others to come in. Track and field, volleyball, netball. Because you can't tell me it's only football that everyone, all the youth in St. Mark's are involved in. What's about the women? What's about the netball team?
Mike, I might sound controversial here. I can't understand why Kaipo is issuing articles of incorporation to sporting clubs. And they are not holding them accountable for what is required of a not-for-profit organization. They're not getting no annual returns filed, right? They're not having according to the bylaws, they're not having meetings, but you allowing them to renew and to renew and to renew. We are creating our own problem. If government, who has the authority to issue the article of incorporation to an organization, cannot hold that organization accountable to meet the bylaws, right, required by law, right, to be in that status, then take away the status, right? And that is where our big problem is. We conveniently allow things to falter only to recognize that we're causing more demise to sporting associations and organizations with those kinds of behavior.
All right.
I will use one last point before I continue. I just tell you this one. Queen's Park Rangers has not had an election forever. I don't know when last. But anyhow, thanks to Bumpy, he was keeping it going for a long time. He called it quit, I think, 2 years ago. And today, I think it's Kino and Andre Patterson that's doing it. But if Queen's Park Rangers was not in the top 3 positions in football, that club would have mashed up. God has had it this way that in the last 4 or 5 years, Queen's Park Rangers has been in the top tier of football in Grenada, which keeps them going because they win all the youth tournaments. And then in the senior men, they're in the top 4 or 5 on average. Well, back to back, they're in the top 2, right? So imagine a club like Queen's Park Rangers cannot even meet the requirement of what is supposed to be a not-for-profit organization. How are we helping sport?
So, but you at the same time you're making a plea that you can see them coming together, the football and the netball coming together to come to what it was back then, right?
Yes. I mean, again, I might sound a little off track here. I knew that Rangers was not going to. I initiated the sponsorship for Rangers with sandals. I'm the person who did it while I was the president, right? And I knew they were going to lose the sponsorship a year and a half, 2 years ago. You know what I did instead? I decided, no, Rangers is not going to go down like that. Not this uniform that they're playing in. The prior uniform, even though you see it marks sandals. Sandals had nothing to do with it. But just to make them still feel a part of a big organization, I sponsored Queen's Park Rangers uniform then. The current sets of uniform they're using, the 2 sets of uniform, I'm the person who sponsored it, and I'll continue to do it as long as I can. But I am not authorized to use sandals, so I use a brand name Nutmeg 74. But the point I'm making is, imagine if they had to find resources to go purchase uniforms too. They have nothing. I mean, they have now, on an average, U15, U17, U20, girls, plus senior, 5 different teams, and there's probably within the 5 teams about 9 competitions. You have the Super Cup, the Knockout, the Premier League, and I think there's one other, right? And that's like on an average about $250 even for a trip within St. George. So we must get these organizations back to a structure whereby people will not even hesitate to lend support to them.
Right. And that goes across, that's what I'm saying, even for Hurricane, for example, and even in St. Patrick, where you have these teams that they can go into a proper club structure where they can secure financial assistance, support, whatever it is that's necessary. Okay. Something here that, Rudy, and that may go down what you have been talking about. Roger is saying the Pepsi on the 16 interparish. But here's something here, Rudy. Oswald is saying we need to also secure medical assistance to all sporting clubs on island. Maybe clubs making a contribution to a medical insurance for its members. Over the years, too many of our talented fell through the cracks due to the lack of proper medical attention after sustaining injuries while participating in different sports. And which we know is common. I think, Rudy, and it's something we spoke about on our program before, that we don't have this something happens seriously in terms, God forbid. Out for now, we kind of lucky, we should say, that we haven't had some serious issues. We have seen, for example, in Jamaica, where both football and track and field, where the participants fell, and somehow they were not able to revive them because they didn't have the necessary equipment there at the time, and they died. Okay, since then. Some of the folks in the diaspora have been able to, I know Owen Clare, for example, from Jamaica Beckel, he has been able to lead a campaign where he has been able to get these equipment, those medical equipment, and at least each school, well, not each, because they have so many schools in Jamaica, most of the schools were able to have that. So when they go out, whether it's a football game or whether it's track and field, whatever, they have those things there in the event. of there is a medical emergency that they can use it. I'm not medically inclined, so I can't remember the full name, but I know what it is. And just one thing before you say that, Martin is saying, Mike, look at the jersey Cheney decided to put on.
Yes, it's a good jersey. It's a good jersey, Cheney. It's a very good and a good color too. It's a good jersey, Cheney. Don't worry about them. Let's leave them alone. It's a good jersey.
I had a few options, but I decided to stay close to my heart. You know?
Yes, right there.
we could have let that one pass. But it's the nature of small island politics. Sports administration in Grenada is entangled in politics. I think you made that point earlier, Cheney. And until we get rid of that, Michael Jackson is saying, "Morning, Ethan." If folks don't know, Ethan is AKA Cheney Joseph, right?
My good friend Michael Jackson. I think he's somewhere in Texas now.
Yeah.
But one of the things too, Michael, that somebody bring to me some time back, he said we got to use the slingshot analogy. You know, once you put the ideas in the slingshot, which is the stone, you have to pull back for it to go forward. So definitely, Cheney, what you're saying is the slingshot analogy. But we have to go back to move forward, because the things that works then would not work today based on technology, based on rules and all those things today. But there are things then which is more the structure and the foundation is really what it is. We talk about the foundation all the time, and without the foundation, then that's why we are where we are now, because there is no foundation anymore. We're not moving forward. I mean, you mentioned one thing, to put sport in certain things in different places. I always like that idea. However, I'm looking at, I'm in St. Patrick's now, and we're looking at 4 recreation ground, and we're looking at the McGraw College ground. In our days, there were no one in the parish that would beat us, anyone living in the Mali and the Sotters area, in long jump, high jump, triple jump, throwing event. They would not beat us because we had the McDonald College ground to use.
Okay, right.
Nowhere else had that.
Right.
So we had that. Nobody will beat us. Absolutely no one. There's a time in high jump, my brother and I was going, and we both continue going. And the coach had to come and say the first person to drop the rod loose, because we'd have been there all night. Because me and him just keep going and going and going. So that's one of the things. Now you have, and again, if anyone living in Sutter's area and I say something that's off, please forgive me. McGraw College, you can't get into it no more, the grounds, because it's fenced around, you know. And we see the situation at the 4 recreation ground right now, and it can be done. You mentioned cricket, that used to be all over. 4 recreation ground don't play cricket anymore. So the kids in that area cannot have to. The travel aspect now is also a problem. So you have the 2 major fields, the Mali ground and the 4 recreation ground, basically no cricket.
All right, Cheney, before
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, because I wanted you, as it was under your presidency, we had the whole thing regarding the 4 recreation ground, right? And that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. But before you do, you say that. Let me just take some comments. Perfect example, the vacuum that was left when Ram folks left Fontenoy. Yeah, that's another thing. When Ram left Fontenoy, probably left with a vacuum. Paul is saying, Cheney's general concept of parish rather than teams reach GFA was the start of structure. Unfortunately, there was no continuity. Grenada's small economy cannot sustain 40 clubs sponsorship right?
Exactly.
Wait a minute, Paul and I will agree now, and I said to Paul in a private conversation, there's the 2020 vision, and there's also the opportunity to do what you call hindsight. And by having large amount of clubs in Grenada did not help football. What you had was more numbers, but less quality. In fact, if you ask me, in Grenada, we probably could do better off with 5 clubs in a parish for maximum. Yeah. But that 5 club takes part in 8 sport. You understand what I'm saying? 1, you will get quality. 2, you have numbers for even when, let's say, if it's track and field taking place, the non-track and field athletes will be able to join in supporting. They will be able to help with fundraiser, the rest of it. Let's just face reality as we speak now. GFA has 40 clubs. They are clubs. They got the status quo. They have the not-for-profit articles of incorporation, so they are clubs. We probably have about 56 in St. Andrews when it comes to football and cricket. Yeah, when you think of the St. Andrews Football League, they have the MSO, Exodus, and all those other teams. St. Mark, they have another set of things, uphill, downhill, Villa, the rest of them. The Limes, you have now a set. And a lot of them are going to either government or the private sector. So they're going to the same people over and over and over. So it's not helping. And mind you, we can't take away from the fact that Carnival has to come and beg them also. They in all 77 primary schools in Grenada has to come and ask them. 26 secondary schools. We are our biggest enemies. I am basically saying if we have less, and for example, if our local clubs can adopt schools. So if you had 5 clubs in St. George's, there's maybe 5 or more primary schools and secondary schools. You adopt a school, your membership grow instantly. Yeah, whether it's a single family home or otherwise. That's the way I am hoping we'll go. Otherwise, okay, if I can tell you, I have a little cousin. They said he was one of the best footballer out. I personally felt so. He fell through the crack because there was no structure in the organization where he was playing. He ended up first in the small place in where you call up there, where they put the young kids. Bacolet, Bailey's, not Bailey's, Bacolet, the next.
Grand Bacolet?
Right, where they have the home for teenagers rather than sending them to prison.
Yeah.
Straight from there, he ended up in the big college on Richmond Hill. Right? And he's just one example, and I'm using somebody close to home, right? As an example. I heard the president of the GFA saying in the Centennial Award, there are many Kirani James and many Lyndon Victor and Rudian and the others. But the truth is, Rudian might be here and he could answer me. Someone spotted you and then harness you. In my case, 2 persons saw me, but 3. Alistair Telesford first saw me. Then there was a gentleman named John Diabo, and then there was a next man named Les Howard. 3 of those people took me at different levels to get me to at least age 17 when I represented Grenada for the first time. But we don't have much of that again. This is where I'm begging. It might sound weird what I'm saying. I might be repeating myself. But if we can't fix it, then the issues we're talking about dealing with incidents of children getting into, wayward actions and the rest of it is because you have not facilitated what can be done to get it right. We don't need a lot. There's no rocket science. We don't even need FIFA or IAAF or IOC or whoever to come and tell us what to do in a small community like this.
It's almost ready-made.
Yeah, we know it. I mean, Michael, you and I know that when there was not hurricane, back in the day when there was just a storm and the wind was too heavy and someone galvanized blew away, the younger ones like us will go and find the galvanized.
Yeah.
But there were tradesmen coming with hammer and nails, they're straightening right on the side and putting it back.
Yeah.
So we don't really, we can't hold on to the past. But there are things of the past we should not let go just the same.
Yeah, and we should learn from it as well, right?
Yeah,
we should learn from it. Roger is saying, Michael Bascom, I think we can set up a sports bar and call it TalkSports Bar and create an environment where it's the place people go to trash out matters on sports while we socialize. If we don't, I will do it myself and call it GBSS Sports Bar. Please excuse me today, I'm a GBSS green mode. Okay, yeah. He's celebrating still. He's in the green mode. No, but
Roger is always going to talk the business of football, which brings me to one other point. The business of sport. One other point I want to mention too. A few of our associations are making the mistake to think that because we were once a former national athlete, we are automatically administrators of the sport.
It's a myth.
And it is part of the problem some associations are having.
Yeah. And no, well, it's a major problem too. And again, one of the other things, Cheney, if we do not have, as Oswald was saying earlier, that proper structure at the community level, then that's a problem we have, because the same attitude in terms of running a team where you have no structure, but for some reason you reach to the level of national administration, whether it's football, whether it's athletics, whether it's cricket, and then by virtue, probably the Olympic Committee and all these sort of things. And that's a problem we have had, where folks have gone from one level to the other, and sometimes all because they can make the most noise at meetings. Right?
Others are intimidated by them.
Yeah, they make the most noise at meetings. This guy will be a good president because why?
He's loud.
Noise. He's loud. He always asks questions. He always this. He always that.
Yeah.
And I mean, we know that.
But how do we get the, like, I mean, I always talk about that with the person you talk about who get me going in track and field. We had this conversation all the time, and I said, when we look back all the years from when I started in St. Patrick's RFC School to where I'm at now, I'm the only one as a youth from St. Patrick's that's still coaching in track and field.
Okay, so
one more. So that's something, and that you bring it back. It could be politics. It could be this. It could be certain other little things that pile in that cause a lot of these great athletes to just leave the sport alone. Life happening and this happening and so forth. But how do we get that back?
Rudian, let me just tell you what. In the UK, I'm certain they do it in the UK. I know they do it in the US. I know they do it in Canada. I don't want to say I know they do it anywhere else in the Caribbean, because I'll be lying to you. While athletes are pursuing a career as athlete, coaches or mentors identify other attributes that they may have. For example, I believe you will be a good coach down the road. So they encourage you in, whether, forgive me, athletics coaches, I think your numbers go, the lowest number is higher or the higher number is low. Whether it's, level 1, level 2, level 3.
Yeah, that's how we do. Yeah, we got to level 5. Yeah, we got to level 5. Yeah.
So level 1 is the lowest.
Level 1 is the lowest, yeah.
Right. So they identify these people even while they're still active. And so by the time they finish their sporting career, they would have had like 8 years, 10 years experience as a budding coach or budding administrator or referee, or Oswald spoke of in the medical field. In Grenada, it's the opposite. In most sports, except possibly cricket and track and field. Cricket and track and field, I think they identify people early and they get them there. In Grenada, we do it the other way around. We push people into things that they were not capable of being ready for, or because they were good in it as a player, we elevate them to positions that we expect them to perform the same way. I'll just say, for example, it's a criticism I make of myself. I regret the fact that we did not spend more time with the Grenada Union of Teachers to identify persons who had interest in coaching, refereeing, medical, physical fitness, administration. We probably might have had less of my talking today if we could have identified more of these types of people to be part of sporting clubs and the rest of it. The other thing I have a problem with, under me also, I did speak to one or two of them. I want you to minus Nat Simpson, Alistair DeBellot, Jake Rennie, and maybe Jerry Alexis, minus this 4. I want you to tell me another Grenadian football coach that has spent at least 3 years, 4 years studying the craft and has in his possession a UEFA C, B, or A, or professional license. I want you to look at Grenada over the last 100 years, minus Jerry, Jake, Rado Griffith, and I think again Ali DeBellat and Nat. How much instructors do we have here that are certified by CONCACAF or FIFA that can impart knowledge locally, rather than these 2 days, 3 days session where a foreigner comes, he random 6 hours of working us and anything.
Martin is telling us probably Lester Smith as
Lester Smith. My apologies, Lester. So I'm saying this is not a criticism on this administration. It is a criticism even beyond me that we have not done sufficient to empower local persons in different areas. And that could be also a reason for the quality of football, I'm speaking football in particular, that we are getting at the national level. As we say that, within the last 2.5 years, our girls has been the best performers for Grenada to date. However, because they have not played sufficient games since their winnings, they have dropped now to, I think, 168th rank. But between you and I, if these same girls were playing football regularly, at least once every women's calendar date, I'm almost certain the female team that we have now is capable of being ranked 120, 100 in the teens, 100 in the teens. Our under 20 girls would have been 80% of those same girls. We withdrew from a competition last week. That's the second time we did it. I don't know the reason, but I'm just telling you things that is causing. So with that, it's a demotivation for the girls to want to work hard.
Yeah.
You understand? Thank God a good bit of them. We have maybe about 14 girls who are out there. They went from college into, some of them are going into university now. Our men's team moved from 153 to 174, I believe, at this point in time, because they are not playing sufficient games in between those, you know. So, so I'm just using football because I don't want to go into a sport where I'm not absolutely an expert on. Now, that brings me to the point I want to make quickly on your last program. You and Rudy and y'all had a great program last week. And I still believe the GSAL, and I would like to come one day together with my son and sit down and really try to sell the GSAL. Rudy, and for your sake, simple. It's just like the PSAL in the US.
Yes.
Public Schools Athletics League.
Public schools, yeah.
Right. So GBSS done with the mini Olympic. When was it? Thursday.
Tuesday.
Thursday was GBSS mini Olympic?
No, Tuesday. Yeah.
Except for maybe 1 or 2 games, the athletes will just be training, and no events to participate in between now and intercall. So if we were to have the public schools or the Grenada, schools athletics league, what would happen is you train, you run your mini Olympic this week, you probably rest next week, but you're going to the Northwestern Games, or you're going to the Eastern Games, or you're going to the Southern Games, or you're going to the St. John's Invitational. But schools.
The idea was, I think, was 5 sporting disciplines.
5 sporting disciplines for maximum to start. We don't want to stretch it.
Yeah.
And the points, going back to the Maguire House thing too, instead of just using track and field to measure the performance or the attributes of a house, while you will recognize the winners first, second, third, fourth place in track and field, still these points are still being accumulated, whether it's in house debate, whether it is in literary debate, or farm, how you call it, farm and garden, whatever you call it. They just have this agricultural thing in the backyard. But in other words, a series of things. So at the end of the school year, just around June when they finish their exam, you recognize the school that was the overall champion. You know, I'm just using that as an example, but that's how I'm hoping we can go. I know a lot of people before me have said the same thing over and over, but we have to first believe in it. And to believe in us, I mean, believe in what you're going, you first have to set out with a vision and a plan. And if you have that vision and you have that plan, you might stumble along the way, but at least you're going in the direction of where you said you were going to go. Right. Last but by no means least, I want to use, for example, Michael laughed at me a lot. I said I was going to try farming. I started off by watching them trees and I said, me ain't going in that, I cut down that pick a tree at them. But anyhow, I was able to get some men to do it. And gradually, to date, sorry, Mike, I'm not going to make it public, but I have 17 different crops on that little piece of lot. Yeah, and I did my 3 hours this morning, you know.
All right.
So I'm just saying we have to just go for it.
Yeah,
believe in ourselves.
Before we go, we just have about 3 minutes there. And I wanted you, Cheney, and just on the full recreation ground, because Rudy, and what I heard, and I think probably I'll get an update from Mr. Andal and others, but I understand that the whole issue with the contract and all of these things have now been sorted out. And in fact, I heard that there were workmen actually there up to the past week, right? Ministry of Works took over the project now, etc., etc. There were some issues regarding the contract and things like that. But Cheney, the GFA at the time of your presidency went into an arrangement with government at the time, then government at the time, regarding the full recreation ground. Briefly, tell us what was it to do, what the MOU was to do.
We pursued ownership. The government said they could not do that, it would displace people in St. Patrick. Our intention was to have the care of that ground, all parts, aspects of it, including staff working with the upkeep of the ground under our care. They then changed it and they decided the only thing they could give us, after they said no, they won't sell, we were asking for a lease for 40 years. They said no, we couldn't get that. And then they decided the only thing they could get a GFA is what we call a user agreement. Mind you, the Attorney General at the time is a former president of the GFA, but he didn't help our cause. So with the user agreement, we invested initially the first time $695,000 US for the lights. Right?
Wait. $695,000 US for the lights?
US for the lights. Yeah, the lights. Because we had a cost overrun and we had to then dig out some other money.
Yeah, but you're saying
was originally 500,000.
But you say US dollars, yeah?
US dollars, I said.
That's over $1 million.
That's over $1 million plus. Yeah. About $1.3 million, $1.4 million.
Just for the lights. Go ahead.
Lights.
Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah.
Then after a while, we said let's put it like quoting with the government. We said to them, it would make no sense you have the lights there and, you know, people still have to stand up around the field, the rest of it. How can we do a little bit more to upgrade? Again, we were pursuing the recreation, how you call it? They have a little building on the side there.
The community center. The community center.
So we were pursuing using the top of the community center to do what I call a VIP lounge and some kind of little bit of office space. So when dignitaries come, they go upstairs there and they watch football from there instead of the pavilion. That was not sold or was not bought, because we were selling. So we then asked for permission to just erect seating for 2,200 persons.
Excuse me.
Then what we did was to spend this time almost 800,000, it's 700 and a little bit US on seating on both sides for 2,200 persons. So that was phase 2. But by then the government was being more supportive And so we suggested to them the ideal thing might be we might find a way to budget for field upgrade in Plains, and we'll make Plains ultimately a cricket ground, and we will convert for recreation to football and track. That was the objective. So we were going to put an artificial surface instead of natural grass. All right. Now, we all know the history of June 22nd or June 11, 2022. So let's go past that. However, what I am learning now is that they removed all of the topsoil from the ground at present. But if I can just lend them some ideas from what I believe was some environmental impact study that was done, which we had to pay for. It was determined that the bill in the back of the by the sea,
breakwater
thing, right, was going to help preserve waves from coming all the way into the back by the thing. But what they had intended to do was to do some river. I mean, you had some river or some stream in the back there. They were going to put gabion baskets there. And they were going to dig some trench from under the pavilion, because the pavilion and the same community center is what's causing part of the problem with the flooding. Because when all of that water comes from the southern side of Full, the water, you don't get to go out quickly enough. So the option for them is either they create that space for water to go out beyond the playing field and the recreational center, or they may have to dig a series of drains along the field in like a draft board kind of setting. And when the water comes, it goes various places, but it's controlled. With all of that being said, I feel GFA should have taken a proactive approach and sacrifice some funds and help government to fix their quick and to get the field back up to thing, because it's bad to see almost $5 million, $6 million almost there. EC now, I'm talking EC now, there. And, you know, these two things, I mean, to be honest, that looked like wisps.
Very, very interesting, the information you provided here. And I mean, even the impact study, for example, I wonder if, you know,
I should be able to find it.
They're aware of the impact study and, you know, something, because you don't want to, it's the same issue we have in, like, for example, with the Tantine Recreation Ground, for example, you know, in terms of the flooding and things like that. And we see that the whole issue of maintenance comes up from time to time, and whether or not we should be able to find a way where these grounds, these fields, should be at a certain level that they're not prone to this sort of flooding. Yes, you will have a lot of water, but it should be an easy runoff, for example.
Michael,
yeah, but
you know why there's no runoff in Tantine?
Well, I mean, it's under sea
level. The politicians again has to take a brave stand and move these structures along the Port Highway. Let's not get wrong from it. The water used to phase itself off, but because these buildings are there, the water is hitting the building, so it can't go further than there. Some of that water used to go onto the road, and it will phase itself away. Right now, the water has nowhere to go. It's relying on one place, which I heard they dig the drain behind Key Universal, but that's just one exit.
That's one exit. But when you look at it,
Tantine Playing Field was part of the sea a few decades ago.
Yeah. So it's under the sea level. But when you look at it, most of our fields, basically, they need some sort of remedial work to raise. Because when you look at Lassages in St. David, right, the river is right there. It probably, for some reason, easy runoff. When you look at Progress Park, you have the river right around it. When you look at the Grenville Recreation Ground, another flooding prone, depending on how it is, prone to flooding. When you look at Tantine, when you look at Boucher's, right? Even the stadium itself now, as
National Stadium,
right? Yeah. And then you have for But the only one that kind of a bit, because it took a lot of years and a lot of money, would have been Cuthbert Peters Park to an extent, right?
But Peters, yes, because Victoria still does experience flood.
Right?
Yeah.
So they need to take a serious look at our facilities, our recreational facilities in Grenada, and whether or not the level should be raised, because somehow most of them are prone to flooding, and simply because the drainage or there's a river right next to it. Look at that.
But with the artificial field in 4, based on those out here, because I mean the previous one when they were building the track at the school where I coach at, we know how it works. Because once they put the artificial field, there'll be a drainage, which will limit the flooding.
So there was
with artificial fish. Yeah.
No, so there was planned, Cheney, for artificial in.
Yeah, that was the intention.
Oh, so it's not artificial. It
wasn't natural grass. The idea wasn't natural grass.
Yeah, but right now as it is,
it's natural.
It's natural grass. Yeah.
Oh, so the idea was for the artificial.
Want to put it? If you put the artificial, there will be proper drainage. Because when they build it, they build it with the drainage. They build it with drainage. Yeah.
Okay. So that's something they can probably consider. Cheney, it's always a pleasure having you. But you have something to say again, Cheney?
Yeah, no. I know you're scared to ask me. I'm afraidly saying it. I'm giving Paradise win tonight.
Well, I was about to ask for.
They won the final last week. Paradise won the final last week, so they're playing what you call exhibition game tonight.
Yeah. But in all fairness to Paradise, is one of the most exciting club, the brand of football. A lot of things about Paradise, even in terms of spectators and support, right? Because you would have seen on social media, they have been doing merchandising for the whole time, for the whole week. They have been doing their merchandising, and I think it's working as well.
I owe you your Queen's Park Rangers jersey.
Yeah,
it's too far away, so I can't go. Yeah, I can't go to show you.
When I get to Grenada, definitely. But seriously, Paradise, and I meant to ask you about your crystal ball for tonight regarding Paradise. They have been the most outstanding football team for the past apparently the past decade, I would say. They have been dominant, even at the youth level. Even at the youth level, women's as well. Paradise is very somehow. They have
I hold them responsible for being selfish. I've encouraged Paradise for the last 8 years to do a Big Brother program.
Meaning?
It's like a mentorship program. Go to different places where there are clubs that you believe can start like you are and get to where you are.
You are. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So maybe a Sab, a Moncton, go there. Don't just lend players. Because I think what they do basically is just lend players and sometimes Jake go help out with coaching. But they need to take on the Big Brother mentorship program.
Okay. Well, Martin is saying that Paradise is doing what GBSS FC should be doing. Right? Yeah, because remember with yeah, and I think he's correct about that. Nice to have you on, Cheney. Merry Christmas all. From Roger Duncan, he's saying that. Any parting shot from you, Cheney? I mean, apart from
belated happy birthday. I bought the ticket to come up to New York, but then I couldn't make it,
Belated happy birthday to you as well, Cheney.
Yeah, but it was nice. It was nice being here, you and Rudian. I must say, I think actually, the program
we went for 2 hours.
Is growing. It's time for you to move to the next platform where we can break for commercial cause.
No,
but you guys are doing.
No, we'll just go to the TalkSports bar. That's all we'll do.
Yeah, right. Or have it in the TalkSports bar. I'll take Roger.
We pick up Roger.
But seriously, I must say to you, beyond today, you guys, I'm always there, even though sometimes I'm always a little humorous. Thanks for engaging me here today. I hope the information that was imparted was ready for consumption by those who were listening. And I just want to wish Grenada and Grenadians all the best in sport and for the season.
And my parting shot to you, Cheney, is that do you still have an interest in sports administration in Grenada?
I wouldn't go away from it. I wouldn't go away from it. You're asking me something that is different to would I ever run for office again. That's different.
Well, then if you want to answer that, then you can answer it. I didn't ask that. Sometimes they raise it.
At the next forum, when I'm wearing a Brazil jersey. Yeah. But I mean, the sport has been good to me. The sport has been good to me, and I believe I have a few more years to give back to the sport. Simple.
All right. Good boy. Kevin Hector is saying, blessings, everyone. Happy holidays. Coco Shot, happy holidays to you as well. Okay, and to all those, Martin and Oswald and all the others, Roger, all the others who have made a contribution today. Natalie,
yes.
Thank you very much. And to Hazel, Fullerton, Michael Jackson, our great Michael Jackson. Thank you very much to one and all. And also to our good friend Paul Roberts. Paul, I still think we need to really have a discussion again about the need for the, sports media, sports broadcasting, sports photography, sports journalism, whatever we want to call it. Because, we keep harping about it, but there needs to be something serious. How can we ensure that we can, just as how we are asking for proper club structure and talent identification and all of that, at the same time, people like you and Cheney and myself and Harold and others and Toro and others can assist in identifying and nurturing young sports journalists with the hope that they can see sports journalism, whether it's on the broadcasting side, whether it's on the writing side or whatever, very seriously. What you say,
Michael? Before you close, I must ask you a question, a trivia.
Please. If I can answer it, I will.
It was April 1983. India played West Indies.
One day international.
Match. Yeah, sorry.
No.
In
one day.
In Queen's Park. One day, sorry, in Queen's Park.
Yeah, Old Queen's Park.
Right. So the two questions I will ask you is, what was the color of the studio that the television station was operating from, and who was the cricket scorer?
Boy, I can't remember this color. Was it the late Ox? I'm trying to.
Ox was in the official booth, which was on the tall telephone poles.
Oh, Ox was there. You see, at least I knew something. I knew something. So
okay.
Yeah. So you want to say
it was a green old school bus.
Oh yeah, the school bus, the old school bus. Right.
Yeah,
old school bus. We had the yellow.
One of the commentators.
We had the yellow and the green.
Yes, one of the commentators was a fellow named Paul Roberts.
Right.
And the scorer for that game was yours truly.
Okay, that's good. So I was mixing up because I know Ox was around, but Ox, yeah, because at that time you had the scorer for the teams and the official, and then you also had the scorer for the broadcasters.
Yeah.
The broadcasters. Yeah. So let me say same to all. Patrick Simmons, thank you very much, Mr. Simmons, and also to Kennedy Philip. Thank you very much. That's our old PBC boy, our old PBC boy. Yeah, Twit. And Mr. Robert Phillip. Well done, Michael. Thank you very much. Yeah. So the next focus, obviously, guys, will be, I'm just throwing that out. We'll hear a lot now as soon as we've gone through the holidays and we get into the new year. It will be the rush for Intercall, the Intercall Championship. So, we will be busy, Rudian, getting the folks on. All the hype leading up to Intercall 2025. And from what I heard, remember Colin Peters told us that 2025 will be a very exciting year for Intercall. And even Nicholas Benjamin said that as well from the GBSS. And I got that feeling from Mr. Carl Andal as well, because he's the vice chairman of the Principals Games Association. So we're looking forward to 2025, a very exciting year for our Intercall, that's athletics. But at the same time, we are hoping that we can share the spoils with the other sports. And Cheney, seriously, we want to at some point come back and talk about that GSAL, because I think the concept of the GSAL, I think it will be very important for sports development at the school level, right?
Yeah.
It has worked in Brooklyn, for example, and I mean, we have a lot of folks who have been, what will you say? They have went through the system of the PSAL. Your son went through it, and we have a number of others who have gone through that system of the PSAL. Amanda, our former athlete there, Amanda, she was
Crawford.
PSAL. As a matter of fact, a lot of the athletes I have been able to identify that are from Grenadian parents and who end up participating and representing Grenada. It was through the PSAL, right?
Mm-hmm.
Amanda was one, and we had a number of others that, Hadi Hazard was through the PSAL as well, because I used to go there every weekend and look at them participating through the PSAL. And I think it's something that concept of the GSAL in Grenada with about maximum of 5 sports to start off with is a very good idea, and something we may have to throw again at the Ministry of Sports, and especially now that we have the National Sports Council and all of that, we hope that it's something they may be able to buy into and things like that. So, right? Thank you very much, Cheney. Take this one before you go. Cheney can be a good minister of sport. You should think about that seriously. That's provided he's appointed as a senator, because Cheney played politics. He has to be appointed as a senator because he afraid politics. He will not go to get the votes. Yeah. Thank you very much, Cheney.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, no problem. Yeah. So, folks, Rudyard, a very exciting program.
It was. Is that two? Yes,
yeah.
It was good. Yeah, it was constructive. Yeah.
Once we have someone as Cheney, we put out a lot of ideas, a lot of food for thought.
Yeah.
A lot of things he had put on the table there, things that he had been ventilating. Sometimes on his social media site, for example, you see a lot of those things. But it was nice hearing from him about his thinking on a lot of issues. And I think sometimes the point we are making and we have been making is sometimes because of other issues, we neglect people like Cheney and others. But they have a lot to offer. And that's what I'm saying. I'm in a position. And I always try to engage Cheney, even at the level of the sports council and the parish sports council and thing. I say, Cheney, we have been friends from since boyhood. And I know your passion for sports, and I think you have a lot to offer. Don't let these things dampen you. Yeah. See how you can be involved, give advice, give this, that, and the other. You see, like, for example, even though how he has been treated, he still sponsor Queen's Park Rangers.
Yeah.
He still provides sponsorship to them in terms of the uniforms and all these other things. And I think he has a lot to offer. And I wish the Ministry of Sports or the Sports Council or the Parish Council can engage folks like Cheney.
Reach out.
And we have a lot of others in other parishes that you can reach out to and engage. Yeah, and engage them. They may not want to be personally involved, but I'm sure you can throw something to them. You can bounce something to them.
Some ideas of them. Yeah.
Here's what we're thinking about. What sort of
what do you think?
Yeah, what do you think? What suggestion? What are some of the options you believe that we can pursue? All these sort of things. Right. Oswald is saying, yes, Martin, a percentage can go towards organized sporting activities in every community. Yes. And there was something that Rogers threw out to Cheney there regarding the GFA. But Cheney, if there is a strategic plan for GFA, why are they missing out on building organizational capacity, which is key strategic perspective that will address matters like human resources, development, etc. Coaching. And all this sort of, and I think they're missing out on quite a bit. Yeah, Rudian, so I think we have another week or so to go, and where we will take our recess. I know we should have Mr. George Gotti Robinson on our program on next weekend. We have quite a lot to discuss with Mr. Gotti Robinson. As you know, he has been, entangled with the Grenada Olympic Committee for a number of years regarding some issues that are actually ventilated through the courts of Grenada. And I think he feels a bit, satisfied now that the point he was trying to make.
Has come across,
yeah. And he will be our guest on our program. Mr. Goti Robinson has been a former president of the Grenada Amateur Athletic and Cycling Association then, at the time, and lifelong supporter of sports, very much involved in sport, a past, not just a past administrator, but a past sportsman himself, coach himself. In fact, he was a founding member, I should say, of the Grenada Olympic Association at the time. Grenada Olympic Association at the time. I have a photo of him basically being there among the founding members.
Of the
Grenada Olympic Association. And we'll have a lot to discuss with Mr. Goti Robinson, our program. It should be I think it may be our penultimate program. We'll have a wrap, most likely on the 21st, where we'll just chat among ourselves. Hear from our viewers, what they have to say in terms of 2024 and looking forward to 2025, right? So thank you very much, Rudian.
All right, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
All right,
as well. Yeah,
all right.
So, folks, that's all for our program for this week. It's always a pleasure having you, all the folks who have been involved, and a lot from. I want to thank Mr. Cheney Joseph for us guests, Mr. Rudian Silvan, co-hosts, and all those who have made it possible for our program this weekend. It was a long one, over 2 hours, but well worth it, I'm certain. Until then, do have yourself a pleasant weekend. I want you to, no doubt, continue to support our local sportsmen and sportswomen. There's YTT football on this weekend, the final on this, well, I should say finals, because we have the third and fourth place playoff, and then we have the final between FC Camahan and Paradise. We have Windward Islands under 15 cricket tournament on this weekend in St. Lucia. And then we also have the D Sport Shop netball finals on Tuesday at the Tanti Netball Complex. And then we have 2 swimmers who are heading off to World Championships. Yeah, we have 2 swimmers who are off to World Championships. They going to participate in the World Short Course. We call it the Short Course swimming tournament. In Budapest, Hungary. We have, we call it the World Athletics 25-meter swimming championships. It's from the 10th to the 15th in Budapest. Anika Otway and Nathan Fletcher, they're representing Grenada. They'll be accompanied by the coach, Gusson Escobar, and Miss Beverly Benoit. Miss Benoit, who's a PRO, she's a representative for the federation at that championship in Budapest. So a lot happening in terms of participation. And certainly we want you to, whatever and wherever you can support, please do, right? Because it's important for you to continue supporting our sportsmen and sportswomen. Finally, whatever you do, as I always say, do to some level of moderation, but do enjoy yourself and do have yourself a pleasure.